Hey, guess who's back? It's me, your favorite transformation coach, Angela Williams, aka Angela Motivates, with another edition of Boss Talk Tuesday. I have missed you guys tremendously, and I'm so glad to be back. Thank you all for the prayers from the passing of my father. I greatly appreciate it. And also keep them coming because it's moment by moment, day by day. The grieving process is it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. It's up and it's down. So thankfully I'm okay right now. But again, thank you for your prayers and keep them coming. So before I get started, I almost forgot. Put your name in the comment section. Let me know who you are and where you're viewing me from. Also, spread some love by letting someone know that the video is here. And if you're watching me on if you're watching me on replay, simply put hashtag replay. And lastly, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel at Angela Motivates, what are you waiting for? Get on over there, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, so that you can be notified when I upload a video. All right, guys, so this is the quarantine version, and hey, we're just gonna go with it. So my topic for today is stop. You're worrying about the wrong thing. In this time, during this whole COVID-19 virus situation, this pandemic, everybody is so focused on all of the negatives with it, and it's developing a spirit of fear that is just beyond this world. Now, let me just make sure I say, use wisdom, do the necessary things, such as, be informed, wash your hands, cough in your elbow, sneeze in your elbow, all of those things. We are supposed to implement those things and do that to protect ourselves. But we are not supposed to be operating in fear if we are believers, because there is no fear in God. So that's why I want to talk about this today. So I'm going to use 3 biblical examples because you guys already know, excuse me, you guys already know that I like to give examples so that it can bring home the point that I'm trying to make. So I want to use 3 biblical examples of some stories that we can learn from. And the first example that I want to talk about is Adam and Eve, and how Adam and Eve had everything they could have ever wanted in the Garden of Eden. They didn't have to worry about anything. Plus, they also had a great relationship with God. They walked with him in the cool of the day. They were like him because they were created in his image. But then here comes the enemy sneaking in with subtlety, okay? Because that's how he does. He moves in a subtle fashion to catch you off guard. And he goes to Eve and he asks her about the eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So basically, he caused her to take her focus off of everything that they had already to the one thing that they didn't have. That one thing meant really nothing in comparison to all the stuff that they had. So he made her focus on something that she didn't have. And he caused her to start worrying about the wrong thing, okay? So what does she do? She goes to her husband. She tells him about this fruit. They eat of it, and then all mankind has been changed because of that one decision to focus on the wrong thing. And the second example that I want to talk about is Peter. When Peter walked on the water, as long as Peter was looking at Jesus, he was fine. But when Peter stopped and started looking at the storm, he began to sink. Why? Because he was worried about the wrong thing. Okay? Then the third example that I want to talk about is the Lot's wife, how she, on her way on the road to freedom, okay, she was given a directive not to look back at her past, to keep her eyes moving forward. But because she was worried about the wrong thing, she stopped, she looked back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Now, in these 3 examples, we can see how worrying about the wrong thing will shift your focus away from the thing that is most important. Let's go back and look at Adam and Eve, how Eve stopped looking at the fact that she had provision. Like she could have easily have taken the information that the enemy had given her, and she could have gone to God and say, hey, this is what was presented to me. And in modern day terms, that would be you taking the issue and praying about it. So instead of Eve going to God, like how we should go to God, yes, COVID-19 has been presented to us. So let's imagine that COVID-19 is that fruit that the enemy presented to Eve. So here we are, we're presented with this virus. We're presented with this pandemic. Well, that doesn't mean that we have to partake of it. You know what I mean? And I don't even really guess that's something that I should even like say partake of it, because I mean it's a virus. It's airborne. It's out there. But we don't have to partake of the negative reports that are being broadcast over the news. We can take this information and go to God with it, because why? He has given us directives in his word. Eve could have done the same thing. She could have gone to God and say, hey, I was presented with this information. What's the deal with this? And then God could have given her the answer as to what she needed to do in that moment. But no, she didn't do that. She was so worried about the wrong thing that it caused her to act out of her own, what's the word I'm looking for? It caused her to operate or function out of her own wisdom, if you will. The fact that she felt like she was missing out on something caused her to tap into her own curiosity and say, you know what? I walk and talk with God daily, but in this moment, I feel like he's withholding something from me. So let me just tap into my own wisdom and just make an executive decision and just do it. Wrong decision, okay? So let's look at Peter, how Peter walked on the water. Now, what made him look at the storm? What made Peter take his eyes off of Jesus and look at the storm? I'm glad you asked. The reason he took his eyes off of Jesus and started looking at the storm was because the storm was raging loudly. This COVID-19 is everywhere. It's plastered on the news. It's plastered on social media. Every time you look around, somebody's sending you an inbox, a messenger, something, giving you an update, giving you a directive to tell you what to do, what not to do, and where to be and where not to be. The storm was so loud and raging around Peter that he decided to look at it and not look at Jesus. And then he began to sink. How many of you are sinking right now in fear because you are furloughed? You can't go to work. Or your kids are at home and the money is not coming in the way that it was before. Or maybe you are on your last roll of tissue and you can't find any. How many of you are sinking in the circumstance? The reason you're sinking in your circumstance is because you have taken your eyes off of your source. The news media is not your source. Jesus is your source. Okay? Stay with me. All right, let's go and look at Lot's wife. Lot's wife was given a directive to keep her eyes moving forward, not look back on her past. But because she longed for that thing that was comfortable, that thing that was familiar, it caused her to be afraid of accepting the unfamiliar. Moving forward sometimes is unfamiliar. Like right now, we're living in some very uncertain times. Will we ever go back to being normal? I mean, this virus has shut down everything. And so the feeling of uncertainty is there. But you don't have to be uncertain in these times, because there is the word which is certain, and it tells you exactly what to do in times like these. So do you see where I'm going with this, guys? Instead of sinking and shrinking into fear, you need to really tap into your faith during this time and stop worrying about the wrong things. Don't look at your bank account. Don't look at the fact that your job has been furloughed and that you have been at home with the kids, or you're at home by yourself, or whatever the case may be. Start looking at this time as a season to rest. If you've not been able to rest, look at this as a season to write that book that you've been instructed to write. Build that business that you've been instructed to build that you didn't have time for before. Look at this time as time that you can be creative and be productive instead of being afraid and fearful of the unknown or the uncertainty that this COVID-19 has brought to you. All right, I hope you guys got what I'm saying, and I hope you guys will implement what I'm telling you. Start focusing on things that are secure, things that are sure, things that are certain, and stop worrying about the wrong things, because this too shall pass. This is only temporary. It is only a season. What you do in this moment is very crucial and important to your overall growth and development, and your mental peace. Okay? That's all that I have for now, and I hope that you guys will join me next week as we dive in a little deeper into self-sabotaging beliefs. Don't let these times create limited beliefs for you. Find creative ways to be productive in this season. All right? I love you guys, and again, thank you so much for your prayers. Keep them coming, and I look forward to seeing you next week.